Hey guys, Lyrics Messiah here, and in my last video I talked about the transformation of the space. But today's video, I'm going to talk about the transformation of me. Ladies and gentlemen, we big and we have sense. No, but for real. Today I want to talk to you guys about me. I want to introduce myself to you all because I am not the same person that I was just a few months ago. In late 2020, while the year was coming to an end, the person that you see before you today was actually just beginning to be formulated. And that's because I started doing some life coaching sessions with a guy called Brendan Best under the banner of Best Fit Consultancy. Brendan is amazing, first of all, and he is a life coach and he looks at coaching an individual from a holistic point of view. What I mean by that is he will give you business advice, relationship advice, emotional advice, spiritual advice, and just general personal disciplinary advice as well. And I receive from every single one of those aspects. When Brendan contacted me for sort of the consultation call to decide, yo, hey, what you're kind of hoping to get from this process, I identified two major things. The first one, I wanted to be able to feel, because at the point in time I felt very numb. And the other thing was to develop spiritually, because at the point in time I felt like I lacked spiritual discipline in a big way. I felt very far from God. Now, let's pause, let's take a moment. Before we move forward, I just want to put a disclaimer out there and say, guys, I don't know how this video gonna go. This is a very vulnerable conversation for me. It's not one that I planned out in terms of scripted. I just knew I wanted to share this with you guys. The first thing that really stood out to me when it was identified is the fact that the numbness that I feel towards my emotions is not a matter of I don't feel anything. It's a matter of I am suppressing everything that I feel. It probably sounds very simple when I explain it to you, but in the moment, because I guess I was so close to the situation, I couldn't identify that that is what was going on. But it was the truth. And Brendan took me through this three-step process of moving from a place of suppressing my emotions to processing my emotions and then expressing my emotions. And at that point of expression, it was bittersweet because I would find myself crying in my bed, just lie down crying. And I would feel there would be this duality of thinking about it in the moment, because it's like, on one hand, this is sad, that's the reason I'm crying. But on the other hand, I'm so happy to be able to feel something. I don't know if this makes sense to you guys, but that's what it was. As we went through the sessions, we went through my history in terms of my relationship history, sexual or physical history, my history with my family. It could be very daunting to discuss that kind of information with another person, especially if you're not proud of all of your history. But it was like one of the most helpful things, because in that, Brenda was able to identify certain patterns, and we were able to go through my history and trace it all the way back to the very beginning. What are the experiences that led to you putting yourself into situations to be where you are right now, feeling numb and ashamed? That was another major thing. In one of our sessions, Brendan was identifying to me the difference between feeling guilty and feeling shame. And the fact that I was feeling shame in the moment was hard for me to admit to, because, I always profess this love for self and that I so love myself. But I actually was judging myself pretty hard for some of the things that I was suppressing. And I was living in this place of condemnation. When I was really young, I went through some traumatic, abusive situations. And it happened then. And then as I lived my life, I found myself in situations where it happened again. But because of the first incident, or patient zero, I was now in a position where I felt like I couldn't say no. I felt like I didn't have control over, getting away from those situations. And so I allowed certain things to happen. And then I blamed myself for them happening. And so, sitting down with Brendan, he was showing me, yo, you are condemning yourself right now. And more than that, you're also self-sabotaging because you don't feel like you deserve certain things in life. Now, for somebody to sit down across from you and say that to your face is like, wow, what a wake-up call. And I think it's very fitting that we have a water break. So if you have some water next to you or you don't, go get some water. It's very important that you drink water. Thank God for that. So, moving along. I was totally committed to the process and I was totally open and I said, if I'm doing this, I'm doing this. So when he identified these things for me, I thought about it. And I said, yeah, it's true. I don't know exactly how this works, but just being able to identify this is exactly what I am doing, it did so much for me. I felt so much more empowered to move forward. So much so that I actually ended up reaching out to some of the individuals who hurt me in the past. And it wasn't a matter of I want them to feel remorse. It was a matter of me forgiving them and forgiving myself, releasing the situation. I just want to share one of the things that I identified in one of my sessions. And the note I have written here is break the agreement. And when I went through all these traumatic situations, I made certain agreements in terms of giving certain persons control or relinquishing my own control in these situations. And because I was just suppressing these things and not dealing with them, those agreements were ongoing subconsciously and they were affecting the decisions I make in my life. And so in order for me to move forward and regain my voice, I needed to break those agreements. I needed to confront the situations internally and externally where I could and say, this is the end of that. Time for something new. I remember in my last session with Brendan, we went back to the same spot where we had our first session, which is on top Mount St. Benedict. And just sitting down up there, my body physically felt lighter. I was so bubbly, you know? I was more in touch with my feminine side. And I was able to express my emotions, which was major for me. If I had to summarize the process using some of his words, I would say that Brendan was able to usher me from boyhood, if that's even a word, into manhood. And something he said that really stood out to me is that for a man to become a man, another man has to initiate that process. And what that basically means is somebody can't take you somewhere that they've never been. Much love and respect to single mothers, but it is very important for a boy to have a man in his life to teach him how to be a man. Some of you might disagree with that. However, we will have conversations in the future where I would explain more in terms of what I mean. And hopefully I can have Brendan on one of our podcasts, which I plan to have. So look out for that. Now, what is the purpose of this entire video? I just want to let you guys know that the Stefan, which is the correct pronunciation of my name, that you see before you, is the best version of myself that I have ever been. And being this best version of myself, I know there is better to come still. Also going through the process, it kind of identified for me how important it is for men to have spaces like the one that Brendan created for me, to be able to have conversations that are considered taboo for men in general society, which is why I'm embarking on creating the podcast, which I am entitling Manscaping, because I want men to discuss, social issues that they don't really get to talk about. For example, heartbreak or feeling inadequate or abuse that men would have gone through, things that are traumatic for them that they are suppressing because society is not allowing them to express it. Because in having those conversations, we will now empower our men to actually be men. And that's not the expression of toxic masculinity, no, but a healthy expression of a man that women will also appreciate and that those men will appreciate. If you feel like you could benefit from having an individual go through a process like this with you, feel free to hit up Brendan. I will leave his website down below, Best Fit Consultancy. Trust me, you won't regret it. At the end of our session, that's where my spiritual transformation began. But that's for another video. This is Lex Messiah signing off, and until next time, may the light expose you well. Don't forget to drink that water.